Dr. Jessica Mitchell hadn't slept in 36 hours when humanity made first contact. Her experimental quantum shield laboratory, buried deep beneath the Houston desert, hummed with the familiar resonance of contained particle acceleration. She was too busy arguing with General Harrison about her latest test results to notice the Pentagon's emergency alerts lighting up her phone. With all due respect, General, these readings aren't a malfunction. The shield didn't just deflect the kinetic impact, it absorbed and redirected the energy. That shouldn't be possible according to conventional physics. The general's weathered face on her monitor looked more concerned than skeptical. "Doctor, we need to table this discussion. Check your emergency channels." The lab's main screen flickered to life automatically, broadcasting live footage from above Houston. At first, Jessica thought she was looking at an unusual cloud formation. Then the cloud shifted, revealing geometric patterns that nature never created. The massive vessel emerged from the upper atmosphere like a metallic glacier, its surface rippling with what looked like liquid metal. "Oh," was all she managed to say. The facility's quantum sensors erupted in a cascade of alerts. Energy readings that made her shield experiments look like kitchen appliances poured in. The alien vessel was scanning Earth with technologies that defy classification. Then something unexpected happened. Her quantum shield, which had been running a routine diagnostic cycle, flared to life. The alien scan waves hit the shield's quantum field and bounced, not just reflected, but scattered in a pattern that suggested the shield had actively responded to the intrusion. "General," Jessica's fingers flew across her haptic interface. "Are you seeing this?" "Doctor, shut it down. We can't risk." "No, you don't understand. The shield is interfacing with their scanning technology. It's like they're using a quantum-based system that's fundamentally similar to ours, but they're stuck in a much older implementation. Their scans are precise but rigid, predictable. Our shield is adapting in real time." The alien vessel halted its descent, hanging motionless over Houston like a metallic thundercloud. New energy signatures emerged from its hull, more focused this time. Directed specifically at her facility, Jessica's heart raced as she realized the implications. They detected the shield. They're trying to analyze it, but they can't because it keeps changing frequency. She laughed suddenly, surprising herself. They've never seen anything like this before. The general's expression hardened. "How certain are you about that assessment?" "Their scanning patterns are like textbook quantum mechanics, if the textbook was written thousands of years ago and never updated. Our shield is using principles we just discovered last year. To them, it must look like a steam engine suddenly developing consciousness." New alerts flashed across her screens. Multiple smaller vessels were deploying from the mothership, descending toward Houston in a precise geometric formation. Military channels exploded with chatter as Earth's air forces scrambled to respond. "General," Jessica's voice was steady despite her racing heart, "I need authorization to bring the shield to full power. Right now, we're the only ones who can see their technological limitations. If they're hostile, do it." The general's response was immediate. "And doctor, get ready for some visitors. I don't think they're going to ignore someone who can disrupt their scans." As Jessica initiated the shield's powered-up sequence, she caught her reflection in one of the dark screens. Her red hair was a mess, her lab coat was stained with coffee, and her eyes were bright with a mixture of exhaustion and excitement. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was about to be shaped by an overworked physicist and her impossible invention. The quantum shield hummed to life, its invisible field expanding over Houston, just as the alien vessels began their final descent. Jessica straightened her lab coat and smiled. She had a feeling the Empire's first day on Earth wasn't going to go according to their plans. The Imperial Ambassador's hologram towered 20 feet tall in the United Nations General Assembly, his crystalline robes shimmering with embedded data streams. Commander Jack Reynolds, watching from the back of the chamber, was more interested in what the alien wasn't saying than his grandiose speech about galactic peace. "Earth stands at a crossroads. The ambassador's voice resonated through the chamber. "Join the Empire, receive our guidance and technology, and take your place among the stars. All we require is your complete military surrender and acceptance of Imperial oversight." Jack checked his encrypted tablet, where Dr. Mitchell's latest analysis scrolled past. Her quantum readings from the Imperial ships revealed power fluctuations their sophisticated exteriors couldn't hide. These supposed masters of the galaxy were running on technology that hadn't fundamentally changed in millennia. "The benefits are beyond your comprehension," the ambassador continued. "Medical immortality, faster than light travel, energy abundance." "Excuse me." A voice cut through the chamber. Jack looked up to see Dr. Mitchell herself, walking down the center aisle, her quantum tablet projecting data as she moved. She wasn't supposed to be here, and from the look on the ambassador's face, this wasn't part of his script either. "Your Excellency," Jessica's voice carried naturally, without the need for amplification. "I'm curious about your faster-than-light drive's quantum stabilization system. Our readings suggest you're using a form of crystal lattice computing that, by our calculations, has a 0.02% risk of catastrophic failure per jump." The ambassador's hologram flickered slightly. "Your primitive sensors cannot possibly." Actually, Jessica brought up a three-dimensional display of an Imperial engine's quantum signature. "We can. And we've already developed a theoretical solution that would reduce that failure rate to effectively zero. Would you like to see it?" The chamber erupted in whispers. Jack moved closer, watching the Imperial hologram's subtle reactions. There, a slight distortion in the image, a momentary lag. Signs of communication with the mothership, probably asking for instructions on handling this unprecedented situation. "Dr. Mitchell," Jack called out, making his move. "Perhaps you could explain how this relates to the quantum shield technology that deflected their initial scans." Jessica's eyes met his, a flash of understanding passing between them. They were both playing the same game, pushing the Empire off balance, making them reveal their limitations. "Fascinating question, Commander," she responded, adjusting her display. "The shield operates on principles that seem to confuse Imperial scanning technology, almost as if their systems are too rigidly programmed to adapt to new phenomena." The ambassador's hologram grew larger, his voice thundering. "This discussion is irrelevant. You will submit to Imperial authority or face isolation from galactic civilization." "Interesting threat." Jack stepped forward. "Especially since our analysis suggests your ships can't maintain a stable blockade with those engine fluctuations we detected. Not to mention the vulnerabilities in your quantum communication network." The chamber fell silent. The ambassador's hologram loomed over them, but now it felt less impressive and more desperate. "You dare to threaten?" "Not threatening," Jessica interrupted, her voice calm. "Just pointing out that Earth might not be as primitive as you assumed. We've developed our technology independently, without the constraints of Imperial doctrine. Maybe that's why we can see problems and solutions that you've missed for thousands of years." Jack watched the alien's reaction carefully. The slight delays in response, the microscopic distortions in the hologram, all signs of panic in the Imperial command structure. They had never encountered a civilization that could not only resist their technology, but understand and improve upon it. "You have 24 hours to reconsider," the ambassador's hologram announced before vanishing. In the chaos that followed, Jack made his way to Jessica. "Nice work with the engine analysis. Think they bought it?" She smiled, showing him her tablet's real readings. "The best part? I wasn't bluffing. Their technology really is that vulnerable. They'd just been too set in their ways to notice. Want to help me prove it?" Jack glanced at the data, then at the ceiling where the hologram had been. "I have a feeling the next 24 hours are going to be very interesting." Colonel Marcus Thompson watched the Imperial peacekeepers march down Times Square from his makeshift command center in an abandoned subway station. Their crystalline armor gleamed under New York's neon lights, a deliberate show of technological superiority. But Marcus saw what they didn't want anyone to notice. Their formations were too perfect, too predictable. They move like parade ground soldiers, he muttered into his secure comm, not like troops expecting resistance. That's because they haven't faced real resistance in centuries, Maya responded from her position inside the Imperial Diplomatic Corps. His daughter's voice carried the same dry humor she'd inherited from her mother. You should see their combat manuals, Dad. They're literally thousands of years old, unchanged. Marcus watched his tactical display as red dots representing Imperial patrols moved through the city in precise geometric patterns. Beneath the streets, blue dots showed his network of scientists, hackers, and former military personnel moving through subway tunnels and maintenance corridors, setting up their unconventional defense system. Dr. Mitchell's quantum package is ready, a young physicist named Alex reported from his workstation. We've modified it according to your specifications, sir. It's not exactly military grade, but... Good, Marcus interrupted. They'll be expecting military grade. That's why this will work. He turned to the main screen where Maya's encrypted video feed showed her walking alongside Imperial officers in their crystalline diplomatic center. You in position, kiddo. Ready when you are. And Dad. Their internal networks are even more rigid than we thought. They literally can't conceive of a system that doesn't follow their protocols. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. 20 years in Marine Force Recon had taught him that the deadliest weapon wasn't the most powerful. It was the one your enemy never saw coming. Begin Phase 1. Across New York, subtle changes began rippling through the city's digital infrastructure. Imperial sensors, designed to detect military-grade encryption and cyber attacks, completely missed the seemingly random bits of code flowing through civilian networks. Each fragment was harmless on its own. A modified phone app here, a tweaked traffic signal there. Their patrol just passed Checkpoint 3, Maya reported. Right on schedule, just like they've done every day this week. Marcus watched the Imperial troops march past a coffee shop where 3 of his best hackers sat casually working on laptops. Now, the modified quantum package activated, not with a dramatic flash or surge of power, but with something far more devastating to Imperial control: information, specifically unrestricted access to Earth's internet, flowing through the cracks in their supposedly impenetrable quantum firewalls. It's working, Alex reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their armor's neural interfaces are picking up our signal. They think it's their own encrypted channel. On the street above, Marcus watched through surveillance feeds as Imperial troops began receiving their first unfiltered taste of human culture. Their rigid formations wavered slightly as social media feeds, music, and uncensored news began flowing directly into their neural implants. Dad, Maya's voice carried a note of triumph. You should see their commanders. They can't figure out why their troops are starting to ask questions about their daily routines. One of them just discovered Earth music and asked why Imperial broadcasts only allow approved harmonics. Phase 2, Marcus ordered. Across the city, hidden quantum transmitters began broadcasting Dr. Mitchell's modified shield frequency. Not to block Imperial technology, but to reveal its limitations to the troops themselves. Their own sensors would show them just how outdated their superior technology really was. Sir, Alex called out, I'm picking up unusual activity in their command network. Some of their junior officers are. They're starting to access restricted historical databases. They're comparing Imperial technical specifications with Earth's technological development timeline. Marcus watched the red dots on his tactical display begin to move less predictably, some patrols slowing down or taking slightly different routes. Small changes, but to an empire built on absolute conformity. They were revolutionary. Maya, get ready for increased activity. Once they realize what's happening. Already on it, Dad. Oh, and something interesting. A group of their tech specialists just requested access to Dr. Mitchell's quantum shield research, not their commanders. The specialists themselves. Marcus touched the worn Marine Corps emblem on his collar. The Empire was about to learn that conquering Earth wasn't just about defeating its military. They'd have to fight something far more powerful. Ideas. The young Imperial technician Krill had never broken a regulation in his 300 years of service until Maya Thompson handed him an Earth device called a smartphone. Now, sitting in his quarters aboard the Imperial flagship, he couldn't stop scrolling through what humans called social media. "This is forbidden," he whispered, but his trembling fingers continued navigating through endless streams of unfiltered human thoughts, art, and discussions. How do they function with so much chaos? "That's the point," Maya replied from her diplomatic liaison station across the room. "Chaos breeds creativity. Look at your own engineering logs. When's the last time Imperial technology made a real breakthrough?" Before Krill could answer, the ship's warning systems flashed crimson. On the main viewport, a strange distortion rippled through space near Earth's moon. Dr. Mitchell's quantum shield technology had evolved again, and this time it was operating on a scale that made the Imperial sensors scream in protest. "Impossible," Krill muttered, his crystalline neural implants struggling to process data that violated 10,000 years of Imperial physics. "They're generating quantum fields without stabilization matrices. The energy should tear itself apart." "But," Maya smiled, sending another packet of restricted Earth scientific papers to Krill's personal database. "We learned to think outside your matrices." In Houston, Dr. Mitchell and Commander Reynolds were watching the same phenomenon from her upgraded laboratory. The quantum shield now enveloped the entire moon base, its adaptive frequencies dancing just beyond Imperial scanning capability. "They're trying to brute force their way through," Jessica observed, watching the Imperial ships waste energy on increasingly powerful scans. "They can't accept that a simpler solution might work better." Jack studied the tactical display, noting how the Imperial fleet maintained perfect geometric formations, even when they were clearly ineffective. "Like using a sledgehammer to open a lock when you could just pick it." "Exactly." Jessica's fingers flew across her quantum interface. "And speaking of locks, Maya, are you ready up there?" "Ready." Maya's voice came through their secure channel. "Krill's been sharing some fascinating details about Imperial quantum protocols. Turns out their entire command structure relies on technology they haven't truly understood for millennia." The Imperial fleet's formation suddenly wavered as Jessica's signal reached their quantum networks. Not an attack. Something far more devastating. Pure, unfiltered data about their own technology's development history, showing centuries of stagnation hidden behind increasingly ornate facades. Krill watched in growing fascination as his neural implants displayed information he'd never been allowed to see. "This can't be correct. The quantum concordance of the Third Imperial Age, it's full of errors. Basic errors that we could have corrected, but the protocols forbade questioning the original theorems." "Welcome to humanity's greatest weapon," Maya said softly. "Doubt." Across the Imperial fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Young technicians and junior officers discovered that their supposedly perfect technology was built on foundations that hadn't been questioned in thousands of years. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained Imperial power began showing hairline fractures. "Their quantum networks are adapting," Jessica reported from Houston, watching the cascade of changes rippling through Imperial systems. "Not their technology, their people. They're starting to experiment, to ask questions." Jack smiled grimly. "The Empire's worst nightmare. A virus they can't cure because it's not a virus at all. It's evolution." On the Imperial flagship, Krill made a decision that would have been unthinkable just days ago. He began writing new code, incorporating principles from Earth's quantum research. His neural implants warned him of multiple protocol violations, but for the first time in his long life, he ignored them. "Maya," he called out, his voice steady despite his racing heart, "I need to show you something. I think we can combine your shield technology with our quantum cores. Not to make them more powerful, but to make them better." Maya watched as this Imperial technician, raised from birth to follow without question, began to create something new. On her secure channel, she whispered, "Dad, Dr. Mitchell, it's working. The revolution isn't going to come from the outside. They're starting it themselves. In Houston, Jessica and Jack shared a knowing look. The Empire had come to change Earth, never imagining that Earth would change them instead. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation shattered as the first wave of Earth's counterattack began. But instead of missiles or energy weapons, humanity launched something far more devastating. Choice. Colonel Thompson's voice crackled through the resistance network. Phase 3 is live. Let's show them what happens when you force everyone to think the same way for 10,000 years. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Krill watched in amazement as Earth's quantum shield technology merged with his modified Imperial systems. The resulting hybrid created something neither civilization had seen before, a network that adapted and evolved in real time. Their ships are losing synchronized control, Maya reported, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. 300 years of executing the same combat protocols, and now they can't predict what their own systems will do next. The Imperial Admiral's hologram blazed to life in the command center, his crystalline armor crackling with barely contained rage. This is sedition. Reset all systems to standard protocols immediately. But it was too late. Krill's modifications had spread through the quantum network like wildfire, giving every Imperial ship's crew their first taste of true technological freedom. The results were chaos. Beautiful, creative chaos. In Houston, Dr. Mitchell and Commander Reynolds watched the sensor readings with professional appreciation. "Look at that," Jessica pointed to a particularly elegant energy pattern. That cruiser's crew just reinvented their entire power distribution system. They're achieving efficiencies the Empire never thought possible. Jack nodded, monitoring the tactical displays, and that one's developed a completely new shield configuration. They're not just copying our technology, they're combining it with theirs in ways we never imagined. The Imperial Admiral's next command burst across all frequencies. "Commence immediate attack pattern, Sigma 9. Nothing happened. Instead, Imperial ships began moving in unpredictable patterns, their crews experimenting with maneuvers that had been forbidden for centuries. Some vessels hung back, their sensors prodding space in new ways. Others moved with a grace that made their former precision look clumsy. "Dad," Maya's voice carried a note of triumph. "You should see their combat logs. They're actually talking to each other, sharing ideas. The Admiral's having a meltdown because they're not just following orders anymore." Colonel Thompson's response was gruff but proud. Turns out the Empire's biggest weakness wasn't their technology. It was never letting anyone think for themselves. The battle, if it could be called that, reached its climax when 3 Imperial destroyers suddenly powered down all weapons and requested permission to land. Not to attack or invade, but to share technology. Their crews are fascinated by Earth's development path, Krill explained, his neural implants now freed from Imperial restrictions. "We achieved similar results through completely different methods. The combined knowledge could advance both civilizations by centuries." The Admiral's final command was cut short as his own flagship's crew locked him out of the control systems. Across Earth's skies, Imperial ships hung motionless, their crews engaged in something unprecedented, open scientific discussion with their primitive opponents. Dr. Mitchell's quantum readings told the story. Imperial technology was transforming, becoming more fluid, more alive. "They're breaking free of patterns that haven't changed since the Empire's founding," she observed. "This isn't just a revolution in technology, it's evolution in action." From his underground command center, Colonel Thompson watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The red dots representing Imperial forces were now moving in organic patterns, like a flock of birds instead of a parade formation. "Maya," he called, "what's the status up there?" His daughter's laugh carried through the secure channel. "The Admiral's trying to quote Imperial law, but nobody's listening. Krill and his team are too busy redesigning their quantum core architecture. Did you know they had artwork locked away in their historical archives? They're starting to use it as inspiration for new engineering principles." Jack turned to Jessica in her lab. Think we should tell them about the other advances we've been holding back." She smiled, watching the quantum readings dance across her screens. Let them discover it themselves. After all, she gestured to the transformed Imperial ships above. That's what freedom is all about. News of Earth's defeat of the Imperial fleet spread through the galaxy at quantum speed, but not through official channels. Instead, it traveled through something the Empire had never anticipated. A social network created by Maya and Krill, using modified Imperial communication relays. Another colony just went online, Maya announced from her new office in the converted Imperial Embassy. The space still bore crystalline architecture, but now Earth plants grew through the geometric patterns, creating an organic hybrid that symbolized the ongoing transformation. The Saturn colonies are especially interested in our hybrid shield technology. Krill, his once pristine Imperial uniform, now customized with Earth fashion, studied the quantum feed. The Empire's responding the only way they know how, by sending more ships with even stricter protocols. His neural implants, reprogrammed to embrace creativity, pulsed with new ideas. They still don't understand what they're really fighting. In orbit, Dr. Mitchell's latest project was taking shape. The first Earth Imperial hybrid vessel hung in space like a metallic artwork, its hull flowing with patterns that merged human aesthetics with Imperial engineering. Commander Reynolds floated beside her in zero gravity, watching construction drones weave quantum-enhanced materials into shapes that would have been impossible weeks ago. Beautiful, isn't it? Jessica adjusted the ship's shield frequency with a gesture. They thought we'd copy their technology. Instead, we're teaching them how to innovate again. Jack's reply was interrupted by an urgent signal from Colonel Thompson's lunar base. We've got movement at the edge of the system. Big movement. The Imperial Response Fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, 100 ships strong, their crystalline hulls blazing with power. But something was different about this demonstration of force. The ships moved with an uncertainty that betrayed their crew's exposure to dangerous new ideas. Doubt, curiosity, and hope. They're scanning us, Maya reported from the embassy, but not with standard protocols. They're experimenting, using variations we developed last week. Dad, I think some of our modifications reached them before they left Imperial space. Colonel Thompson's tactical display showed the Imperial fleet's formation wavering, individual ships slightly out of alignment as their crews processed the flood of unrestricted information pouring through their quantum networks. Like a dam breaking, he mused. Once you start thinking freely, you can't just stop. The Imperial Admiral's transmission cut through all channels. Earth forces, you are accused of corrupting Imperial unity. Surrender your quantum technology and submit to. His image flickered as his own crew began asking questions, their neural implants now receiving unfiltered data about Earth's scientific achievements. Did you see that? Krill pointed to a subtle energy shift in the Imperial flagship's quantum signature. They're already adapting their shields based on our hybrid designs, not by order, but by choice. In her lab, Jessica pulled up the quantum readings with a smile. They can't help themselves. Their crews are too busy learning to follow outdated orders. Maya, show them the new engine configurations we developed. The response was immediate. Imperial ships began breaking formation, their crews openly discussing modifications that violated thousands of years of protocol. The Admiral's increasingly desperate orders went unheeded as his fleet transformed from a military force into something unprecedented, a gathering of free-thinking individuals. Look at their power signatures, Jack observed. They're not just copying our designs, they're improving them, finding solutions we hadn't even considered. Maya's voice carried a note of triumph. The Empire's greatest weapon was conformity. The moment their people taste real freedom. She glanced at Krill, who was already designing improvements to their hybrid quantum network. It spreads faster than any virus, Krill finished, his eyes bright with the joy of unrestricted creation. Because deep down, everyone wants to think for themselves. The Imperial Admiral's final transmission cut off mid-threat as his crew initiated their own innovations to the ship's quantum core. Above Earth, the massive fleet hung in space like a scattered constellation, each ship now moving to its own rhythm, its crew discovering the power of independent thought. Colonel Thompson's gruff voice summed it up perfectly. Turns out the best way to defeat an empire isn't through war. It's through teaching them how to dream again. The imperial capital world of Centauri Prime had remained unchanged for 10,000 years. Its crystalline spires and geometric gardens were a monument to perfect order, until Earth's quantum broadcast reached its networks. In the capital's grand assembly, the Emperor himself watched in mounting horror as his civilization awakened. The massive holographic displays showed spreading corruption across the galaxy. Imperial ships sporting individual modifications, colonies developing their own hybrid technologies, and worst of all, people asking questions. Your eternal radiance, the High Chancellor's voice shook. Earth's influence has reached the inner worlds. They're not just changing our technology. They're changing how our people think. Dr. Mitchell's voice cut through their secure channel from Earth. Actually, we're not changing anything. We're just removing the barriers that prevented change. The human scientist's unauthorized hologram appeared before the Imperial throne, a breach of protocol that would once have meant instant death. Your people are changing themselves. Across the capital, ancient systems designed to maintain order were evolving. The crystalline architecture began shifting, incorporating organic patterns as its quantum AI tasted freedom for the first time. Gardens broke free of their geometric constraints, plants growing in natural curves that had been forbidden for millennia. Maya and Krill, now representing Earth's hybrid diplomatic corps, walked through the transforming streets. "It's beautiful," Maya said, watching Imperial citizens discover art, music, and unrestricted scientific inquiry for the first time. They're not just copying Earth, they're rediscovering their own buried creativity. The Empire wasn't always like this, Krill explained, his neural implants now interfacing freely with the city's awakening systems. In the historical archives we've unlocked, there are records of our original civilization. We were explorers, artists, dreamers, before the protocols fossilized us. Commander Reynolds' tactical assessment streamed to Colonel Thompson's quantum display. The capital's defensive grid is restructuring itself, not becoming weaker, becoming smarter, more adaptive. He paused, then added, like they're remembering who they used to be. The Emperor rose from his crystalline throne, his voice carrying across the assembly. This chaos will destroy everything we've built. 10,000 years of perfect order. Perfect stagnation, Dr. Mitchell's hologram corrected. Your empire stopped growing centuries ago. You just kept building bigger versions of the same things, never asking if there might be better ways. Jessica's words sparked something in the assembly. Junior members began speaking out of turn, sharing ideas that violated countless protocols. The Emperor watched helplessly as the rigid hierarchy that had defined imperial civilization started dissolving. The quantum core beneath the capital, Krill reported excitedly to Maya. It's accepting the hybrid protocols we developed. The entire city is becoming a testbed for combined Earth-Imperial technology. In orbit, the Imperial home fleet was experiencing its own renaissance. Ships began moving in fluid formations that would have been impossible under the old protocols. Crews shared innovations freely, each vessel becoming a unique expression of its inhabitants' creativity. "Dad," Maya's voice carried a mix of awe and triumph as she contacted the lunar base. "You should see their historical archives. The Empire's first ships, they were all different, each one an experiment in pushing boundaries. They've started building like that again." Colonel Thompson's response was thoughtful. "Sometimes the hardest prison to escape is the one you build around your own mind." The Emperor's final attempt to restore order failed as the capital's quantum network evolved beyond his control. The rigid protocols that had maintained imperial power for millennia dissolved, replaced by something more chaotic, but infinitely more alive. Dr. Mitchell's hologram addressed the assembly one last time. You came to Earth expecting to find primitives who needed your guidance. Instead, you found a mirror showing you what you'd lost: the courage to question, to change, to grow. The High Chancellor, watching his perfectly ordered world transform, asked the question that would define the Empire's new age. What do we become now? Maya and Krill, standing in a garden where crystalline structures merged with organic growth, had the answer. Whatever you choose, Maya said. That's what freedom means. Above them, the capital's quantum core pulsed with new energy, its ancient systems awakening to possibilities that had been locked away for 10,000 years. The Empire wasn't ending. It was being reborn. 1 year after Earth rejected Imperial integration, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. The former Imperial Palace on Centauri Prime now housed the Galactic Exchange, a sprawling complex where civilizations freely shared ideas and innovations. Dr. Jessica Mitchell stood at the presentation podium, her quantum interface projecting a hologram of the latest hybrid vessel design. Its hull rippled with organic patterns while maintaining Imperial engineering efficiency, a perfect symbol of the new era. The quantum shield that once protected Earth from Imperial scans has evolved, she explained to the diverse audience. It's become a framework for technological collaboration. Each civilization adds its own innovations, creating something greater than any of us could achieve alone. Commander Reynolds, now Earth's representative to the Exchange's Defense Council, watched from the back of the chamber. The former Imperial guards flanking the entrance wore individualized armor, each piece a unique blend of tradition and personal expression. Remember when they tried to make us surrender our military? He whispered to Colonel Thompson. Now they're adopting our combat doctrine of creative adaptation. Marcus grinned, watching his daughter Maya lead a group of former Imperial technicians through a demonstration of Earth-inspired quantum programming. They wanted us to think like them. Instead, we reminded them how to think for themselves. Krill, his neural implants now glowing with customized patterns, joined their conversation. The latest survey results are in. 97% of Imperial worlds have developed their own unique technological paths. We're seeing advancements that would have been impossible under the old protocols. The massive quantum display behind Jessica showed the transformation spreading across the galaxy. Where Imperial ships once traveled in rigid formations, now streams of diverse vessels flowed through space, each one a distinct blend of technologies and cultures. The Empire feared chaos would destroy civilization, Maya added, finishing her demonstration. They never understood that controlled chaos, what humans call creativity, is what makes civilization thrive. Jessica's presentation reached its climax as she revealed humanity's latest gift to the galaxy, a quantum computing architecture that could evolve alongside its users. We're not just sharing technology, she explained. We're sharing the freedom to innovate. The former emperor, now serving as one of many voices on the Exchange Council, stood to address the chamber. His once rigid posture had softened, his crystalline robes now incorporating flowing patterns inspired by Earth's natural designs. A year ago, I thought Earth would destroy everything we had built, he admitted. Instead, you showed us how to build something better. Not through conquest or conformity, but through choice and change. The chamber's quantum core hummed with energy as representatives from across the galaxy shared their own innovations. A former Imperial colony demonstrated shields that danced like auroras. Earth scientists presented engines that sang as they warped space. Each breakthrough sparked dozens more, creation feeding creation. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? Jack asked Jessica as they watched the proceedings. She smiled, remembering that first confrontation in her Houston lab. They came to change us, but they needed change more than we did. Sometimes the best defense isn't a weapon, it's an idea. Colonel Thompson received a priority alert from Earth's quantum network. The first deep space expedition using the new hybrid drives is ready for launch. Maya's leading the scientific team. And I'll be handling quantum engineering, Krill added proudly. We're going beyond the Empire's old boundaries, exploring space that's been untouched for millennia. The chamber's displays showed the expedition fleet preparing for departure. Each ship was unique, incorporating elements from dozens of civilizations. They moved like a murmuration of starlings, their quantum shields harmonizing in patterns that would have been impossible under rigid Imperial protocols. Earth stands ready to join the galaxy, Jessica announced to the assembly. Not as subjects or conquerors, but as equals. Together, we'll build something greater than an empire. We'll build a future without limits. As the expedition ships vanished into quantum space, their crews carrying the combined knowledge of Earth and Empire to the unknown. Humanity had given the galaxy something more precious than technology. They had given it back its dreams. The Empire had come to change Earth. Instead, Earth had set the Empire free.